there, my name's Jona. Thanks for checking out this video. I wanted to do a list of the 8 things that I learned about sustainability and board gaming in the last half a year. I know, it's just been half a year. It's been crazy. The first thing that I learned is that I thought I was the only one that cared about this issue in our hobby, and I found out I was wrong. I'm not alone. There are lots of people who care about this issue. People who work in the industry, other gamers, as well as people who work in sustainability. I just want to thank Derek Pennington and T. Kairaz for their support and their encouragement, for their time and effort in educating me and answering all of my curious questions into the board gaming industry, as well as into sustainability. They have been true allies to me, and I really don't know what I would have done without them. So thank you guys. Sustainability in board gaming is impossible, and it's such a small impact. It's never going to be addressed before bigger things are addressed. That's the assumption, but I learned that that is wrong, and I learned that there is sustainable board game manufacturing happening, and it is a reality, and it's being very well done. It's just being done in other parts of the world with less spotlights on those practices. For example, Ludofact manufacturing in Germany uses 100% green energy for their board game manufacturing. Before we move on, this is your little reminder to please subscribe if you're new to this channel, and if you care about this topic, to please don't forget to share this video with someone, a friend, and by email or on social media or whatever. That would all be great and really help to support this topic. The next thing on my list is I learned what makes a game more sustainable. Now, this is something that I'm constantly learning and constantly trying to redefine and clarify. So, I mean, it's a work in progress, but this is what I've learned to date. What a sustainable game should be. It should have responsibly sourced materials in it, whether that's the paper or the wood or whatever the components are. We should be looking at how it was made. Was it made in a factory that uses coal, or was it made in a factory that uses wind power? And finally, looking at what becomes of the board game after it's no longer desirable by any board gamers. I know it's a crazy thought, but it will happen someday. The games that we love to play right now and are the latest hotness, in 80 years will be in a landfill. What will become of those components? Will they decompose, or will they be around for another 700 years? I really don't want to get into a lot of the nitty-gritty specifics of what makes the game sustainable, but I will be doing a series of short videos that really zone in on these different topics, FFC and the harmfulness of spot UV finishes, all of that stuff I am going to be covering in the new year. So look out for those. The fourth thing that I learned is never to assume anything and to always ask. Where is this made? What is this made out of? What is that? This has really helped me learn a lot, gain a lot of insight into board game production, whether it's in relationship to what the publisher knows and understands about the manufacturing, to what the manufacturer knows about the creation of their board games. So as a consumer, you kind of assume that the people who make the game and put their name on it understand how that thing was made, and that is not the case. You have to ask people specifically what's in this board game, where was it made, and you will sadly find a lot of people don't know this information, and they don't think about it because people don't normally ask them. So the key here is asking. Was it made from wood that was FFC certified or PEFC certified? And it's not that people don't want to be transparent, it's just that they're not really programmed for it. So asking these questions as board game reviewers is huge for sustainability to grow and to really take root in our community. The fifth thing that I learned is that I can be an advocate for the environment, and so can you. Just by doing what I said in the last point that I learned, by asking questions and showing that you care about where your board game is being made and with what resources. This will also direct the conversation forward, hopefully igniting more and more conversations and igniting more and more questions into how can we make our hobby more sustainable. I also learned that our board games aren't as inherently eco-friendly as I had assumed. The more I learned, I realized that our board games don't use quite as much recycled paper as I had thought. For example, in China, the amount of recycled paper is just much, much lower because the recycling network in that part of the world is much smaller and undeveloped. While in the EU, recycling is much more common, and so the cardboard in the games made in the EU is almost 95% recycled paper. So all the gray board would have 95% recycled fibers in, while in a game made in China, it might be as low as 30%. So it's really kind of hard to know for sure if your game has recycled paper in or not. It all depends on where it was made. Also, a lot of people, like I, assumed that our board games were recyclable, but it all depends on whether there is any spot UV on the cardboard or any plastic varnishes or plastic films on the cardboard. This is something you really have to train your eye to find. If there's any shine or gloss detailing on the cardboard of your game, that cannot be recycled. And those plastics will break it down into a microplastic over time. So I was really discouraged when I learned that from T-Kairos.
When you look at other printing methods that use plastic-based inks or mixes or whatnot to add durability or quality to a paper product, that product becomes one, unrecyclable, and then two, it becomes unlandfill friendly, which means that when the product does go to a landfill, the paper resin in it will eventually degrade because it's paper, but any plastic that is less than that will become microplastics or larger chunks of plastic and be there for literally ever. And that's where we end up with microplastics in our water systems, to the point where certain water systems can no longer be drunk without going through microplastic filtration systems.
It's really opened my eyes to this issue, and it's really lessened my taste for that detailing on my board games. Just understanding more about how plastic decomposes has really opened my eyes to the amount of environmental impacts my board game will have. Lots of my board games have plastic pieces in. And while the board game will probably last, maybe 50 or 60 years, if it has a great life, the plastic will last hundreds of years more. None of us really have a concept for that length of time. Although the things that we buy and surround ourselves with will literally have lifespans that long. So I've really become to be super aware of what materials are in my board games and realizing that my board games just aren't that eco-friendly, not inherently. And don't even get me started on packaging. Number 7, I learned that consumers direct board game trends. And in talking to publishers, designers, and manufacturers, I've learned that they all are very, very sensitive to what gamers want in their games.
The biggest change can be induced by the consumer. Let's not kid ourselves. The driving force behind all the production methods, processes, issues is the consumer.
This is both very hopeful for me and very troubling, because while we have the potential to really redirect this hobby into sustainability, as publishers, designers, and manufacturers are listening to what our desires are, the desires aren't there yet, because gamers don't realize the impacts of this hobby yet. There's potential for great change, but until we get more people rallied around this and really committed to supporting sustainability in this hobby, in this luxury, in this wonderful life that we have, it's just not going to change. If people want spot UV, that's what they will manufacture. If people want tons of minis that will lay around in a landfill for the next 800 years, that is what will be manufactured. The last thing that I learned is that little steps towards sustainability are better than no steps. I don't expect any brand, any designer, any manufacturer to become sustainable overnight. But I do hope that this conversation goes forward and is normalized, and that we can start to ask everybody in this industry as a whole to make one step towards sustainability, especially with the start of a new year. So if this video speaks to you and you want to see sustainability grow, one thing that you can do to show support is just share this video either in social media or just in an email to a friend, and get the word out there. The next thing you can do is leave comments and engage in the conversation, And lastly is, if you're new to this channel, to please subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a wonderful new year. I'll see you in the next one.